Well, we still had on Nile TV International, our today's edition of the Breakfast Show, and now the whole world is heading to Davos in Switzerland, where the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum is taking place, gathering the world leaders, around 3,000 leaders out of 130 countries, gathering over there to get to discuss and to try to find solutions for today's challenges everywhere. Of course, first of all, the technological challenges, the geopolitical problems and turbulences, and this meeting this year, or the version of the 2026, is taking place under the theme of a spirit of dialogue. So it actually refers to the importance of the dialogue to get closer, to try to find solutions for all the challenges between the countries and the leaders. Well, important participation is actually anticipated by His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the forum, as he arrived in Switzerland, in Zurich, the Swiss city, also yesterday. Well, to shed more light on this, we are most delighted to be joined over here in the studio by our prominent guest, His Excellency Ambassador Moataz Al-Ahmadeen, Egypt's former permanent representative of Egypt to the United Nations in New York. Your Excellency, great pleasure having you with us.
Good morning to you, and thank you for having me, Mrs. Al-Khouli.
Yes, thanks for your time and for coming, of course.
Sure.
First of all, when you just read the slogan of this year, or the theme of this year, spirit of dialogue, so what refers to? Can you just elaborate to us the slogan of this year?
Well, if we start a little bit earlier, you know that Davos was established in 1970 by Klaus Schwab, as a forum to introduce European companies to American management practices. And then with political developments, it grew up to discuss and guide different trends in the economy and global economic and social issues. And then by the mid-80s, it grew an interest in resolving international conflicts. And the name has changed to be from European Management Forum to the World Economic Forum. And since then, it discusses traditionally economic affairs like growth, environment, artificial intelligence, as you just meant, and political conflicts as well. Yeah. And therefore, the spirit of dialogue is important this year because, as you know, the world is full of crisis, especially after President Trump assumed office for the second time. During his second
They're getting challenges everywhere, every day.
Because he's an unconventional politician that looks to fill the news. Yeah. So each day he comes with surprises, to the extent that nothing is surprising now. From the demise of NATO, there was a headline today that the Europeans and the Americans are eyeing divorce. Yeah. So nothing surprises me anymore.
Yep, and as you mentioned now, yesterday we've witnessed the address of the President of the European Commission, von der Leyen, and as she mentioned that how it's now essential through dialogue to get closer, to get to find solutions for our challenges nowadays. She's talking, of course, about the European community, the EU countries, and how it's essential to be now independent, the European, as they got the lesson out of the Russian-Ukrainian war, and how they've been dependable for long years on the energy from the Russian side. So she mentioned as well many deals she signed and ratified with starting from the Mercosur deal, and also other deals with Indonesia, other countries, and she's heading also to India to collaborate with other countries to get against the protectionism of the USA and Russia. How you find this as well in a time of a multipolar world?
I think it is about time for Europe to be self-dependent, and we should not underestimate Europe. because together they are the first economy in the world. Of course, alone, France, I think, is the fifth, Germany the fourth or the third, but together the European Union is a big economic bloc. I don't think that their confrontation with the United States would get to military confrontation, although there are threats, of course, and Trump does not let his intentions be shown or explained to others in order to keep his threats and his pressure. But I think that the next confrontation will be an economic one. As Trump has threatened to impose 10% tariffs to be increased to 25% on all on the goods of countries that do support Denmark and independence or independent sovereignty of Greenland. But we do not know if the Europeans do answer back. I think maybe Trump will be deterred because, as many critics in the United States call him the taco president, that Trump always chickens out. Yeah. So I think this is the only way to stand to him. Maybe he was emboldened by the acquiescence of the Arabs to his plan for Gaza, and he's trying to replicate it with Ukraine. And now even he has expanded the idea of the Board of Peace that was endorsed by the Security Council for Gaza for 2 years, to have a general idea of a global Board of Peace under his chairmanship and bending to his will, which I do not believe that this idea is going to fly, even if it is going to be established, because strangely enough, the charter that comes with this Board of Peace mentions that it is going to enter into force if only 3 countries accept it. And we have already 3 countries from the region, Morocco, Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates, have accepted this Board of Peace. But again, I do not see the means of this board to achieve results. And also, if we speak about it, if we look carefully to what is happening, look who is talking. Trump claims that he has resolved 8 conflicts. But I do not see the conflict in Gaza resolved. It has diminished in intensity, of course, but it has not by any means been resolved. Ukraine, I think that the aggression by the United States against Venezuela and the coming one against Iran emboldens Russia not to accept any peaceful solution of Ukraine and keep pushing, as the United States is distracted in Venezuela and encourages military aggression. So we are, I think, in a total chaos. Even the good offer, I would say, by President Trump to mediate in the conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia, this is welcome. But let us recall that he already has claimed, and he has mentioned in his national security strategy twice, that he has already resolved this conflict, which means that we should not take him very seriously in many of his claims.
Exactly, and as you mentioned, Your Excellency, he's a man of deals, so he's supposed to get his benefits, to get something out of it, out of the deal, even from these 2 sides, if he's gonna really to mediate, as you mentioned. And as you mentioned this, you got us to the point that the participation of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Davos this year, and this virgin after 56 years after establishing Davos, and how essential it is for Egypt to reassure its position as a problem solver and talking and negotiating about the sovereign debts, its problems, like the water security file with Ethiopia, of course. Also, he's supposed and is scheduled to meet with President Donald Trump to negotiate with him even the 2nd phase of Gaza truce deal. So what's your how you elaborate on all this?
I think it is very important that Egypt participates in the World Economic Forum. Our top priority, as I understand it, is the economy, because Egypt, as you know, is facing a chronic economic problem. But again, there are many important political issues. First of all, to strengthen the ties with the United States in order to avoid any harm from the different policies of President Trump. Second, of course, to put again Gaza and the Palestinian issues on the international stage, as it has been eclipsed by Ukraine, by the confrontation between Europe and the United States regarding Greenland, by the rivalry with China, by the aggression in Latin America, but by the Donroe doctrine. Yeah. So I think the importance of Egypt's participation in this forum is to put again our priorities on the international stage, including as well the situation in Sudan that has been forgotten for some time now, the problems of maritime routes with the Gulf of Aden, and the problems, even if the US, as I think, will attack Iran, this can cause even more chaos in the region. So all of these issues have to be put strongly to be discussed with European leaders that are also worried of chaos, and with President Trump, so that he understands that he stands to lose from this policy of sowing discord and challenging the established system of the United Nations and the established regional system in the Arab world and many other regions in the world.
Yeah, many other files, of course, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has at the top of his agenda to discuss and to negotiate about with the European leaders and President Trump. But let us talk, please, about this after a short break. Allow us, please, Your Excellency, to go for a short break for the top stories and to come back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, short break, and we'll be back. Well, we still have the Nile TV International, our today's edition of the Breakfast Show, and now we are resuming our interview with His Excellency Ambassador Moataz Ahmadeen, Egypt's former permanent representative to the UN in New York. Your Excellency, great pleasure having you with us. So thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me again.
We've been discussing before the break the importance or the significance of the participation of Egypt in the forum this year. In such a version of the Davos 2026, as we are witnessing the geopolitical turbulences, challenges everywhere, protectionism, the attempt to get the word again to the unipolar world system or the world order from the side of the USA, of course. How Egypt is supposed to also discuss the important files domestically, I mean, concerning Egypt, and also the regional files, as it's supposed to be always the voice of the African countries?
First of all, I think that everybody now is distracted in this US-Europe rivalry. But nonetheless, Egypt should take this opportunity to have a dialogue with important companies around the world and important economic partners like the European Union in order to boost our economic situation. This is one thing. Regarding the crisis of the region, I think it is important to stress that this plan for Gaza is not functioning well. There has not been a real ceasefire. Of course, the conflict reduced in intensity. Israel is killing maybe 5 or 10 Palestinians a day instead of 100,
More
120.
700 have been killed, actually.
Exactly. The only achievement is that the number has diminished, but Israel is keeping the killing. Israel is keeping its choke over the assistance to the Palestinians, and maybe there is a complicity with the United States in order to force the Palestinians to live between brackets voluntarily, as living conditions are impossible in Gaza. Here I think it is important to negotiate and coordinate with the Europeans, because today, before coming to the show, I have seen in the news bars that many European countries are now reluctant to send their representatives back to the Israeli-American military-civilian coordination center in Israel after their Christmas vacation, because Israel is keeping its hold on the humanitarian assistance. It is destroying the UN agencies' offices in Jerusalem. Yesterday, I think they have taken over the UNRWA headquarters in Jerusalem. This is not acceptable, to the extent that we have seen the United Nations Secretary General a couple of days ago has bluntly criticized the United States for respecting the law of power and not the power of law. Yeah. Even Guterres this morning has announced that he is not going to attend Davos because he has a severe cold. That's what he says. But maybe he wants to avoid meeting Trump. Maybe he doesn't want to have a cold shoulder from the President of the United States. And I think he's right. He has nothing to lose. He's finishing his second and last mandate. So maybe he wants to take a sort of respectable or a principled position against all these challenges to the United Nations. With, of course, the top of the comedy is this Board of Peace promoted by Trump, having one man, not even one country, one man to decide whether all the decisions that are going to be voted are acceptable or not, whom to invite and whom to kick out. I think this is really an absurd situation.
Well, of course, there is no doubt that the new version of Davos 2026 is totally different than the other previous versions. Coming out to the files at the top of the agenda of the forum this year, we're talking about industry strategy, we're talking about globalization, we're talking about sustainable development, we're talking about artificial intelligence and digitalization. We're talking about challenges. So how it's your point of view, it differs really from the other previous versions, and how the final declaration is supposed to be also different and to be compulsory for the countries to go for. To be implemented on the ground.
Yeah, let me pick up from your last point. Davos is a non-governmental forum. It does not adopt decisions, resolutions or declarations. It has like hundreds, if not thousands, of panels that take place taking advantage of the presence of big CEOs and leaders of countries. Each of these panels may or may not adopt some recommendations or general declarations or statements, but nothing is compulsory, of course. And here the traditional topics of Davos are reflected in this year's agenda. I think there are five prominent topics. First, coordination in a divided, cooperation in a divided world. Second, investment in competence, aka employment. Because, I mean, there is a crisis of employment in both developing and developed countries. Third, the limits to growth, which means climate change and the challenges of resources and rare earth materials and supply chains. And fourth, we have normal economic growth and the predictions about how the world economy is going through the coming year. And the fifth topic is, of course, climate change and sustainability. So these issues and AI regulation, of course, this is also the fifth topic, I'm sorry, because the United States is pushing for deregulation of artificial intelligence for the profit of big US companies, for the profit of Trump and company, as much as they are pushing for fossil fuels in profit of, again, big oil companies, drill baby drill, as to borrow President Trump's language, again for the benefits of Trump and company. So I think if we focus on the traditional economic and social topics of the Davos agenda, we stand to win to present Egypt as an emerging country that has prospects to mutual benefits to big world companies, both in Africa and in the Arab world. This is one point. And the second point, we have to keep pushing on the political agenda of the region to have a fair and just resolution of the Palestinian question, to have a stop to the civil war in Sudan and to the support that some countries do present to rebel militias all over the region, whether in Libya, in Sudan, in Yemen, or anywhere in Somalia, or anywhere else. And I think it is, everybody sees that there is a rogue state in the region, which is not Iran, not Libya, not Syria, but Israel, who is trying to pursue hegemonic policies militarily, economically, politically, all over the region to strike whomever it wants, whenever it wants, and wherever it wants. I think this has to stop, and we stand a chance to coordinate with the European Union that is trying to realize that the current status of the relationship with the United States is not a viable situation, that is harming the international system and that needs to change.
Yeah, the superpower, the USA, is actually the center of the whole world's movements. And actually, coming back to the address or the speech of the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, yesterday, as she mentioned, that we are now in a fractured world and we are supposed to go to a fair trade conditions, not to protectionism and tariffs, referring of course back to the tariffs imposed by the USA. How do you find this, and refer to the deals that the European Union or the Europe had really ratified with other countries and other destinations like Latin America, like Indonesia, like India, etc. Will it work really to work in the face of the protectionism and the unfair tariffs of the USA?
I believe that the deal with Mercosur will work, of course, although there is some resentment from European farmers towards this deal because of their personal benefits in Europe, but I think this is going to go through. And again, Europe has no choice. Canada is approaching China. The foreign minister of Canada was in China recently.
Germany is also approaching China.
Germany as well, and I expect the European Union, the European Union itself.
And in India as well.
Of course. Actually, the push by President Trump to acquire Greenland and to target Venezuela and to strike Iran, I think it reflects the awareness that the American dominance over the international system is declining. I have a theory here. They are aware that the American dominance is declining, so they are trying to take advantage of whatever remains for the United States from economic, political or military power, and they use it, but they eye the easy targets. They carefully choose whom to confront, like Venezuela, like Iran, like Greenland, because they think, President Trump thinks that Europe is not strong enough, in order to deter the real competitors of the United States, which are China and Russia, in order not to push more for the demise of the United States as the sole hegemon of the international system. But unfortunately for the United States and for President Trump, this policy is not achieving the results, because, as I mentioned, it emboldens Russia to keep pushing in Ukraine. It strengthens China as it sees that there is a rupture between America and its allies, and in the different regions it sows chaos. As we have seen even in our region, Israel is recognizing Somaliland, and now when Saudi Arabia realized
existence, of course, in the Red Sea area. And
of course, they want a presence in the Gulf of Aden. Saudi Arabia, when it realizes that these policies are striking very close, they have struck back and regained some of their influence in Yemen, and I think they keep pushing. Hopefully this will affect the situation in Sudan positively, but what we can see is chaos all over the world, and the old international system has already collapsed. We are witnessing a system, a transitional system, not a system, a transitional system when the dominant power is picking fights with weaklings in order to deter the others. But this is not going to be sustainable, and it is going to encourage others to watch and see how the American influence collapses all over the world.
Yep, allow me, Your Excellency, here is the USA is establishing a system of the non-system, as the others are witnessing this. I mean, and yesterday they were even talking about, we do not want to talk about the rules of the wild or of the forest. So the question here is, will the USA allow the European Union to go away and to succeed in such agreements and deals, to go away of their protectionism system that they are imposing?
Again, if
or they will try to also to impose tariffs again, as they made with the BRICS, and then they started to make this for the countries that they will start to support Greenland against USA.
This is an excellent question, and I think if we look carefully to the tariffs that President Trump is using as a tool for foreign policy and for economic wars, if we look carefully at them, I think that he is using them as a bluff. He never applied the tariffs. He just goes very high and then reaches a deal. Yeah. As he's obsessed by this art of a deal. Yeah. And it strangely enough, for example, with the latest spat with France, with the President of France, when the President of France replied that he is not interested in joining this peace board, he threatened to impose like 200% tariffs on specifically French products like I think champagne and
automotives, also the French cars, etc.
Yes. So is he going to impose that? I do not think so, because this is going to affect the American consumer, and we have midterm elections in the United States. He's trying to push as much as he can with his threats in order to get as much as he can. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It has worked in Gaza. He has been emboldened by his peace plan in Gaza, and he is expanding this strange peace board as a peace board over the world. I think that if countries do coordinate with each other, Trump is going to stop, because even in Venezuela, his own backyard, he has done a surgical strike to kidnap President Maduro and put him in jail. But he does not put boots on the ground. That was for only a couple of hours to do the operation and get back. And he is...
This is but he is dominating now the oil of Venezuela and the resources of Venezuela.
It looks like it is not successful, because when he had this press conference with all the CEOs of oil companies, they mentioned very clearly that Venezuela needs a lot of investments, and that they were not ready to invest this amount of money, billions of dollars, where there is not a political and legal viable framework to just guarantee the return and a normal relationship. This again is important in view of the effort by Trump to destroy the rules-based international system, to come up with an alternative or a parallel organization to the Security Council, which is worse. And even these claims that the Security Council or the United Nations has not achieved much is not true. This is fake news. The United Nations has developed standards of international cooperation in many fields, in trade, in environment, in health, in culture. Specialized agencies. Even in international conflicts, I think that the United Nations has been more successful than Trump. On the contrary, Trump's intervention sometimes does not lead to the resolution of conflicts, like we are seeing in Ukraine, for example. We have to take all what Trump to accomplish with a grain of salt. We have to explain our position. We have to speak up, because in multilateral diplomacy, if you do not speak up, you do not count.
Yeah. Coming back to one of the main files or issues at the top of the agenda of the WEF in Davos this year, which is the investment. Bringing together the public and private sectors, CEOs, executives, businessmen, etc. Bringing them all together and to discuss the availabilities of investment nowadays within the framework of such tariffs imposed by the USA. Do you believe also that Egypt is trying, of course, Egypt is putting or setting the investment is also on the top of the agenda as well. Will Egypt also succeed to get or to attract some investments out of this forum this year?
We have to be realistic. Now everybody is distracted with the political chaos that is reigning over the world. But this does not mean that we should not do our homework. I think there was a successful session by the Minister of Investment with some CEOs from Europe and the United States in Davos. And we have to present what we have. We have to keep reforming our bureaucracy and our investment laws in order to get some additional investments. We have to strengthen our relations with our surroundings, with the Arab world, with Africa, in order to have the field ready when the world is ready again to put investments in countries like our country.
Yep. One of the main issues as well is the climate change. Actually, it's essential. It's such an essential issue in which all the countries has to step forward to try to stop the humidity and the humidity of the earth. So, what do you think? What will happen in this file? I mean, what will be said about this file?
Well,
they always fail to reach something or to get a compromise concerning the climate change.
Climate change is very close to my heart, because I used to lead the Egyptian delegation in climate change negotiations back in the Copenhagen and the Cancun Accords and in many
but we are
United
doing great
Nations
concerning the climate change
forum. But internationally speaking, there is an agenda by the European Union which is fair enough, that puts forward over adaptation. China was reluctant to join this agenda, but now they have realized the economics of climate change mitigation. The only elephant in the room, of course, is the United States with this new administration and President Trump that considers that climate change is the hoax of the century. He denies the science. But again, we have a big partner in the European Union, in China, and in many developing countries in Africa, because Africa is the continent who is less participating in climate change, who does less emissions, but most affected by the negative impact of climate change. Yeah. So we can coordinate with Africa. We can
most of the emissions and most of the pollution.
Of course, we get the pollution and we do not send emissions. Exactly. So we can coordinate our position with Africa. We are an African country. We do actually lead the financial sector of the negotiations. It's an Egyptian colleague, a very able Egyptian diplomat, who is coordinating the African position. We do coordinate with the Arab countries regarding this mitigation first or adaptation first, because rich oil producing and exporting countries tend to lose if we focus only on mitigation, because their whole economies are built on the oil sector. So there is this part of adaptation that is important for them, and we are doing well in the negotiations. What is going to be implemented is another story, but I think we have good investment electric vehicles regarding green.
Well, things have changed, but not to the better. That was, ladies and gentlemen, the contribution or the participation of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and the World Economic Forum in Davos today, as he addressed the forum in this virgin. First of all, of course, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the responsible for the forum, for the invitation. Afterwards, he tried to, in a decade, to highlight the achievements of the Egyptian state, as he tried, first of all, to work on the infrastructure, to enhance the infrastructure, to work on the legislative reform. Also, he mentioned the state's ownership document for enhancing the role of the private sector to play a better role in the economy and the economic growth. Also, he mentioned how preparing the better intensified atmosphere for investment internally, and how Egypt is really successful in this particular, of course, because of the stability and security. Also, been mentioned the new economic reality, and especially in the artificial intelligence, and how Egypt is trying to build and to form a capable calibers out of the new generation to handle successfully with the challenges of the AI through building many new universities in the specialty of artificial intelligence, digitalization, etc. He mentioned also the importance of the Suez Canal, not only to Egypt, but for the world trade as well. Also, he talked about regionally the pivotal, constructive and positive role Egypt is playing to stabilize the whole region, coming out of Sudan and Sudan crisis and the war over there, to Libya, to Somaliland, and also to Syria, Lebanon. He mentioned all this, and the unwavering efforts of Egypt to stabilize the whole region, because he's always working under the motto or the slogan that there is no prosperity or progress unless on the peace. It must be peace, first of all, as a base, and then we start to develop or to achieve development. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and to shed more light and to analyze the address of His Excellency President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, we are most delighted to continue our interview with our guest here in the studio. He's the Ambassador Moataz Ahmadeen, Egypt's former representative to the UN in New York. Well, Your Excellency, once again, thank you for joining and for waiting with us.
Thank you again, and here we go again, and it's a pleasure to continue and analyze the World Economic Forum and the address of the President and the reaction and the questions. I think it's a very important topic.
Yeah, allow me, before we just go to analyze the positive address of His Excellency President el-Sisi, let me just comment on the way, how welcoming the speaker of Davos, how he welcomed His Excellency, first of all, with the welcoming word and the body language, how it was for a great leader coming out of Egypt.
Well, Børge Brende, the chairman of the World Economic Forum, is a former foreign minister of Norway. He is a seasoned politician, and he is aware of the status of Egypt that is represented by President el-Sisi, and this is the normal reception of a country that has such a status in the region and internationally as well. So it is not surprising to me to see this sort of welcome to Egypt. I have witnessed it before when high officials and especially the head of state participate in international fora.
Yeah, Your Excellency, how it's so essential that Egypt highlights its experiment and its way going on progress and prosperity through the 1 decade under the leadership of President El-Sisi, as he mentioned, enhancing the infrastructure, the legislative reform, economic reform, such things. Why it's really important to highlight this and to showcase in front of the world's leaders?
I think it is important. This is the second appearance of the president. The first was 10 years ago, as I understood from the intervention of Borge Brende. And the intervention of the president was divided in 2 sections. One that took a little more than half of his speech regarding Egypt's position in the region economically, whatever the reforms that have been implemented since his assumption of power, the importance that Egypt puts on receiving investments, on providing a good climate for investment, for growth, for multinational firms to be present in Egypt, the ports, the roads that have been built, the electric and digital infrastructure that has been enhanced. All of this serves the priority, the economic priorities of Egypt to attract investment and to establish its role as a hub of investment, not only locally but also regionally, both in Africa and in the Arab region. The second part of the speech, of course, dealt with the Palestinian question, which is very important, and we can further discuss it.
Yeah, we'll discuss it, of course, yeah. Well, of course, President El-Sisi mentioned as well the truce deal or the peace deal of Sharm el-Sheikh approached and they signed with His Excellency President Donald Trump. And he mentioned as well that he's going to build on negotiations with President Trump on the sideline of the Davos, and the time being, concerning the entering or starting the second and going ahead for establishing the state of Palestine on the border of 76. How you find such negotiations or discussions now in the forum? It will go forward, and concerning, of course, forming the border by the President Trump as well.
I noted that the Board of Peace was absent from the speech. Borge Brende tried to bring it up in his last question, but President Sisi did not address this direct question about the Board of Peace, which to me reflects that we are here, the officials are still considering whether to join or not. Probably they will join, but they are still considering whether this new institution is going to stand or it is just a proposal that does not have a chance to fly through, which I think is the case. But if we get back to the Palestinian question, I think it is very important to reassess the situation and put our priority in the second phase, which is the withdrawal of the Israeli troops from Gaza, the introduction of humanitarian aid, and starting the phase of reconstruction, because part of these were included in the first phase of the plan that has not been implemented. Therefore, we should keep pushing our priorities, again in coordination with partners that are more sympathetic to the cause of the Palestinians, in order to put as much pressure as we can on President Trump, in order first to salvage his peace plan if he wants it to be a successful plan, because so far it is not that successful. We have to let him know that aid has to be introduced unbridled, and that the United Nations has a role to play, and that he has to prove this proposed Board of Peace is effective and the previous signs do not lead to
how
optimism.
To be effective, Your Excellency, and excuse me for interrupting, how to be effective as the President Donald Trump is assuming the positions and the board for against money? I mean, it's like deal. He's making this like a real deal, not a peace deal. But number two, my question here is the will of the United States really to bring the occupation forces or the occupation administration to be abide to the truce. Again, I mean, of course, they know very well and they are well informed of the violations of the Israeli occupation troops every day, from the day of the signing the deal till now. I mean, and of course, he's very well informed with the total death toll of the Palestinians from that date, since October till now.
I thank you for this excellent question, Mrs. El-Khouli. And here we have to have no illusions. The United States is an ally of Israel, and it is complicit with Israel. President Trump in particular is a God-given gift to Israel, as he says and as the Prime Minister of Israel keeps mentioning. But apparently Egypt and the countries of the region, and actually the countries of the world, have chosen to deal with President Trump. That is why I mentioned I do not like the plan. But as long as officially we have accepted this plan and we have chosen to deal with a deal maker, he has to understand, we have to let him understand that he stands to benefit from changing his position. That if he does not change his absolute complicity to Israel and putting the blame on Hamas while it is Israel who is breaking the ceasefire, he stands to lose. He stands to lose his reputation as a that he keeps boasting about. He stands to a resounding failure of his peace plan and a resounding failure of his proposal that is almost dead on arrival.
Yep.
So that is why we have to ask, in exchange of him inviting countries from the region to join the peace board, we have to ask him, what do we get in exchange? Prove to us that this peace board is any better the United Nations that you are criticizing. We have to ask this in exchange, because if we join it blindly, like we have accepted the peace plan in Gaza, we are going to get something like what we are getting from the first phase of the Gaza plan. Yeah. This is why I think it was very important to stress the importance of what we need from the second phase. It was very important not to answer directly about whether we are going to join or not the peace board, and we have to play ball or play deal with somebody who is pretending that he is a deal maker.
Yeah. Well, many are sharing this point of view as within the genocide war of Gaza, all the highlights or the mass media were talking about the suffering of the Palestinians out of the Israeli occupation forces. But now, after reaching the truce deal, Gaza had been forgotten. So my question is the truce deal of Sharm el-Sheikh, did it save Gaza? Did it save Israel? And where is the ball now? Is it in Hamas court, Israel's court, or where?
Well, first of all,
or the USA court.
First of all, Trump's plan for Gaza was meant to save the reputation of Israel. This is what he said, this is what Israel said, and this is what has happened. But we do not have to forget that, again, it saved lives of Palestinians that were killed by the hundreds daily. Now they are killed by less than 10 daily. Of course, one life is to be killed by the Israelis from the Palestinians is one life too many. But the situation is a little better than it was 3 months ago. This is we have to stress on implementing the ceasefire. We have to on President Trump and coordinate with other countries, especially the European Union and, more importantly, the Arab countries, because many Arab countries are investing money in the United States and investing money personally on President Trump. And I think that he understands how money talks. And in this case, if some is put on him by rich Arab countries, he might try to change or embellish or improve his position. We should not have illusions that he's going to antagonize Israel, because he believes that Israel participated in his electoral win. But if he understands that he stands to lose economically, personally, for him, his family, his friends, and the companies, and maybe at the elections in November, next November, he might change the position.
Well, talking about also the constructive, positive, pivotal role of Egypt as in the whole region, talking about the statehood of Somaliland, of Somalia in general, talking about the statehood of Syria, Lebanon, Sudan, and the whole countries around in the Middle East. How you see the pivotal role of Egypt? And I mean, we are doing this without interest of getting whatever things behind. How do you find such?
It is in the interest of Egypt to have the region prosper.
Yeah, this is it. But I mean, nothing of to get sources of like the United States of America, to get the sources, to get wealth of the country, whatever.
Yes, I mean, we have interest in stability. Development and peace and security in the region. And this is it is an established position of Egypt, as stated by the President, to support the institutions of the state, to prevent failure of states. Like Somalia was considered as a failed state, Yemen as well, Sudan, Libya. Syria was till recently, but maybe things are improving now. Lebanon is under threat by the continuous pressure from Israel and from the United States to become failed states. We do not have interest in that. We have interest in supporting the Arab states to stand by, to be interdependent, and to grow together, and to stand together to the attempt to have what they call a so-called new Middle East, where Israel is the new hegemon that can strike whomever, whenever, wherever it wants. We have interest in having a unified Arab position, a stronger economic standing, not only from the rich Gulf countries, but for all the region, and a more coordination politically to prevent the rise of militias or non-governmental military components to challenge the authority of the state. And we have interest in both economic and political reform all along, to make our countries more resilient to foreign intervention.
Yeah, but we have the interest above all to coexist peacefully all together, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, going forward for progress and prosperities of the nations. Well, Your Excellency Moataz Al-Ahmadeen, Ambassador Moataz Al-Ahmadeen, Egypt's former permanent representative to the UN in New York, many thanks for your insights, your analysis, and for being with us, and for your time, of course. Have a nice day. Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, by this we come to the end of our coverage. For tuned for the time being. We'll keep you posted to the minute. Many thanks for watching, and for myself, Hanan Al-Khoury.